After a short time, I started floating up out of my body. I could see my body being worked on by a medical team. The deafness pressure started to subside, and I could hear again. I could also see clearly. I continued to float up, and could hear the chatter of the doctors around me. I started to float back down, just short of going through the ceiling. Welcome to Let's Lift the Veil. If these testimonies touch you, help us spread the word. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Every interaction helps these extraordinary voices be heard by as many people as possible. Keep sharing the light. Stay curious. Stay open. Let's lift the veil together. I was about 46 years old, and I have hereditary heart problems in my lineage. As for my beliefs, I became a born-again Christian when I was around 13 years old. I believe strongly that God created the universe, and that Jesus died on the cross to absorb man's sins, so those that wanted redemption and forgiveness would need to believe he was the Son of God, and that he died on the cross for the salvation of man. In life, I always tried to act proper, follow the laws, treat others with respect and kindness, and help others when I could. On May 29, 2008, I was having some chest pains, so I went to see a cardiologist. He did an EKG and immediately sent me to the hospital emergency room. They checked me in, planning to place a stent in a couple of my heart arteries. Unfortunately, they discovered one of the locations was not an option for a stent. They wanted to perform a bypass surgery the next morning. On the next day, May 30, 2008, they prepped me and rolled me to surgery. I had a large fear of the procedure, but was told hundreds of bypass procedures were performed every day, and with no issues. That statement did make me feel better, but I was still scared. I was looking forward to when the anesthesiologist started the knockout gas flow. I was very worried about my children, my wife, my mother, and my job. I was not able to imagine how they would manage and get along without me, especially my wife, since I handle 90% of the household issues. Yes, I was scared, but more for them rather than myself. Finally, I received the knockout gas, and at first, I was not aware of anything. It was just like I was asleep. What seemed like just a few minutes passed by, and then I was wide awake. I had a terrible deafness, to the point I could not even hear my own yelling as I was trying to tell the doctors I was awake. Everything was dark, and that immense deafness was overpowering for me and close to the point of pain. It was as if I was in a vacuum. After a short time, I started floating up out of my body. I could see my body being worked on by a medical team. The deafness pressure started to subside, and I could hear again. I could also see clearly. I continued to float up, and could hear the chatter of the doctors around me. I started to float back down, just short of going through the ceiling. As I started a slow descent, I could see my father and my maternal grandfather standing at the end of a very long hallway. I was excited to see them, and was waving and shouting to them, but they never acknowledged me. They were talking to each other, as if they had not seen each other for a while. They would look my way occasionally, and I would wave and shout again, but still, they never acknowledged seeing me. I couldn't hear what they were talking about, and it did seem like they had not seen each other for a while though. They also appeared the way I remembered them in my head. That is, my dad looked like he did before he got cancer, and my grandpa looked how he did when I was a teenager. I finally descended and was sitting on a table next to the operating table. A door at the start of the hallway opened and a man walked out to greet me. He asked me how I was doing. I pointed over to the table where they were operating and told him it looked like I was not doing too good. The man gave a pat on my back and said, "Not to worry, everything would work out okay." I told him I thought my dad and grandpa must be mad at me because they were ignoring me. He told me that they were not allowed to interact with me. He told me that this was because this was not my time to pass the final barrier, and that I would be going back to my body soon. I asked the man who he was. He told me that he was my brother. He had a cast on his foot that he said he had gotten from skiing. He said that he is in a place where the people get a redo of life on the things they missed out on. They get to experience pain, pleasure, food, joy, happiness, and most other things. He explained it as a place for people who died young before they got to experience life. Here, they were able to make decisions. He said the primary reason for life was to learn and to choose your own paths. He said they stay there but could leave whenever they felt they had experienced and lived enough. He then said it was time for me to go back. During this period, after I came out of the dreadful vacuum of silence, I did not feel pain, enjoyment, or pleasure. I had no memories of my loved ones still alive, so the pain and worry of leaving them was missing. I did not see any bright light or tunnels, although the hallway could have been viewed as a tunnel, I guess. I did not talk to anyone except my brother. I did not receive any messages to live better or spread the word of God or anything like that. Overall, I would say it was an uneventful happening. It was about 4 days before I was awake enough to have normal thoughts and have cognizant abilities. I was told they stopped my heart to allow them better grafting of the harvested arteries to my heart during the surgery. I was kept alive with a machine that pumped my blood and also a breathing machine. When my wife and mother came to visit, I was out of the ICU and I was alert again. I told them about my experience and ended with saying it had to have been my imagination or a dream since I did not have a brother. My mother teared up and began to cry. She told me that I did, indeed, have a brother, that he had died of crib death. She had never spoken of him due to the pain she carried. The father I saw was my adopted father, not my biological father. He is the man I always called Dad, and I loved him as such. I ultimately went back to work, but my health was never the same after that bypass. I had to have stents implanted within 6 months in one of the harvested arteries. I also had to have a pacemaker installed. All of this caused me to retire as disabled. I have days during the month where I do not have the energy to get out of bed, so I stay there for 2 or 3 days, and this happens 3 to 5 times per month. The other days, I am able to shower, dress, and manage what most would call a normal life. I have near fainting spells 2 to 3 times every month, so I stopped driving. I live one day at a time, and no longer have a fear of death. I am not wanting to get in the short line or anything like that, but I have accepted my impending death, and understand that dying is part of the living process. It is something we will all do. During those 2 or 3 days per month, when I cannot get out of bed, I have a constant feeling of doom. Yet it is a calming sense of foreboding that is not laced with fear. After the surgery, we started to position ourselves better financially by clearing all debt, so my wife will not have to struggle when I pass. I have worked with her to help her learn most of the things I always took care of around the house, so she could be self-sufficient. My takeaways from this experience are a few things. 1. When we pass away young, or with severe handicaps in this world, we have the choice to have a do-over and live a life free of the medical ailments. These souls can progress when they feel ready. I would equate this to a type of purgatory. 2. The loved ones are there for us and will rejoin us when the time is upon us. 3. The loved ones appear as you best remembered them. This could be when they were any age that you recall them looking their best, or when they were the happiest. 4. Our lives here are intertwined like a bowl of spaghetti. We are supposed to help people get untwined. We are supposed to treat others with kindness, patience, and love. We are supposed to help people live the life path they choose. 5. The people in your life now will not be missed when you depart. It almost seems like that pain of missing them is blocked out. 6. For the folks that have already died, they will be there to greet you when your time comes. I think it will only be the ones that were the most impactful to you and that you had the strongest bond with, at least in that initial meeting. I have no knowledge or experience with what is beyond the final barrier, or how many other souls may be there to meet you. 7. My faith and beliefs have never changed. I am still a Christian, and I speak to the Lord through prayers at times, with my core beliefs not being impacted one way or another. I have not been a group participant of the Lord, like going to church regularly, for 20 years before the surgery, and that still remains today. I think churches are good for helping those in need, but I think the Lord cares more about how we live our lives and how we treat and help others more than our church attendance habits. My life behind the veil. I was never prepared for what I went through. What happened to me during that surgery left a deep mark on how I see life and what may come after. Before this event, I had no knowledge of near-death experiences. And yet, what I lived through was undeniably real. During this strange moment, I found myself completely outside my body, watching the medical team chat casually while trying to save me. That's when I realized something extraordinary was happening. I didn't see a bright light or a tunnel, but I experienced a moment suspended in complete silence. That vacuum, that sensation of floating, it was both terrifying and freeing. I saw my father and grandfather, but they didn't seem to acknowledge me. Then a man came to greet me, someone I didn't recognize. He said he was my brother, and I later learned that I had in fact lost a brother as an infant, something my family had kept hidden all those years. This man told me about an in-between realm where souls could relive what they missed out on in life. He explained that life is about learning, about choosing your own path, and that message has stayed with me. After I returned, I wasn't the same. My life changed, my health declined, and some days I can't even get out of bed, but I'm no longer afraid of dying. I now understand that death is just part of life's journey. The bonds of love we have here aren't lost, they're just different. What I took away from this is that life is precious, and we all have a part to play in each other's paths. Even if I don't understand it all, I know what I experienced brought me closer to a truth that words alone cannot fully express. Thank you for listening to this near-death experience. If this story moved you, please consider liking, commenting, and sharing it. It's a small action for you, but it means the world to this growing channel. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next journey beyond the veil. Every click helps us give voice to these powerful stories. Take care of yourself and those you love. Until next time, Keep sharing the light. Stay curious. Stay open. Let's lift the veil together.